what it looked like in the 50s
Yeah.
and 60s, you know.
We need to start first with
By
each of you,
identifying
telling your name and what you can do. It seemed to work very well before. Tell your name and then tell when you first came to Sanibel and why. And you could start and then we can move over to the other lady. And then from then on, we'll let the conversation
Oh God,
flow.
let me think a minute. When did I come from?
I'll bet you came to visit.
Dates are very, very bad for me.
Well,
I think
just
I came
generalize
yeah,
when
I will.
you can't, and, you know.
Because
talk
you had
about-
your shop when I came to live.
Oh, sure, oh,
Yeah.
sure. I had my shop in
Because
the
John had his little
early
shop.
50s.
Yeah.
That's good enough, if you just say early 50s.
Yeah, I was here in the early 50s.
Okay, so why don't you start then, and you can just, you don't have to look at the camera, but if you
Yeah.
wanted to begin with, because you're identifying yourself, you
Okay.
could do that.
All right.
So you just say who you are and how you happen to be in Sanibel.
Okay. Okay, my name is Mary Aleck, and I've been on the island for well over 40 years. I came here in the early 50s. Actually, I came here in the late 40s. I came here because of the Hires. They were friends of ours up in Bradenton. We lived there, and they used to come down here, and they had little businesses and whatever down here, and so we would come to visit them. But we came here to live and put up a little shop on the corner of Tarpon Bay and what is now Periwinkle, but we used to call it Sanibel Boulevard, right? And so I think I had the first beauty shop. I think there were people that were doing beauty work on the island because people needed the services and there was no way to get them. But I had the first beauty shop and we still have it going. My daughter now is doing it.
So you had the first beauty shop.
Yes, I had the first beauty shop. And later on, I got my brother John to come down, and we started the Coconut Grove restaurant on the corner. Later on, it became the Island Shopping Center, which later we sold to Mr. Bailey, and it became the Bailey Shopping Center, so on and so forth. And I think I've done everything on the island. I was, well, I think Priscilla Murphy was doing something with Girl Scouts, but I had the real first formal Girl Scout troop, was PTA, and just, I think I'll have to remember things as we go along. It just doesn't come that easy.
Things will come as you start to
That's
settle
right.
in.
That's right.
Well, let's turn over to you, and you can tell us who you are and how you came to Sanibel.
Oh, you want me? I'm Edith Mugridge, and I first came to the island in 1950. I was looking for a nice warm place to water ski and fish. And I stayed at the Hires. Well, this will tell you a little bit about the island. I came to stay 2 weeks, and I stayed 11, and the Hires charged me $91 for the whole summer. And I went to one of the first picnics. I was the first guest that went to the picnic under the lighthouse. Do you remember when they had those?
No, but how did you ever get back by that alligator that used to lay in that big track going towards his house?
I didn't mind that.
You didn't mind it? Oh,
And
Lord.
then I moved over to the Flues when they built Sanibel cottages.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I was buying property through Priscilla Murphy, which is now Southwinds. And I sold it when I found out it would cost $110,000 to fill it. And so then I decided, well, I had to do something. And I bought out Hayes Hudson, Churchill Hudson, their little shop, and started to teach shellcraft. And I only stayed there for a year because they put it up for sale, and I couldn't afford to buy it. And so then Helen Denny's place came up from sale, and I bought her out. So actually, I've been in the same business, probably the only business on the street that's the same owner for 30 years. And I still have my shop. I'm working on it. I have been very interested in community association, and I did a lot of examining for the Boy Scouts because of my background. And back at that time, the fishing was wonderful, and that's the thing I miss the most. I had my own boat, and of course then I got interested in shells. And growing up in New England, my dad and I shelled every Saturday afternoon for mussels and clams and scallops and things like that, but we just ate them and we threw the shells away. But they were beautiful down here. I can remember the banks in front of, where was it, Island Inn, were 4 feet high when that first time I saw them.
Edie, I can remember when I first came here finding, I can remember it, and I could kick myself around the island because I can remember picking up, I didn't know what it was, but it was one of these, a lion's paw, and I was going along and just breaking bits of it, just walking down the thing. Of course, I knew from nothing from shells when I first came here, and just breaking off bits of it, walking down along the beach, and they were just that plentiful. And I do remember particularly in the early, I think it was the winter of 57, 58, was one of the coldest winters. God, it was cold, and I think that's the winter that I found my most beautiful shell. There, a lot of people want Genonias and things, but I found a hairy triton alive with the periostracum. I still have it.
They're still finding them. Do you know up at Captiva on the groins? The divers are finding them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard.
Yeah, they've been in telling me about it.
I hadn't heard. I'll be darned.
But I actually, I had more fun that year down there in that nutmeg, next to the nutmeg house, because I found a live seahorse, and it was a big one, and he was about to have babies. And I got a tank and got it going, and the ladies would walk down from Island Inn every morning and sit and watch to see when he had his babies. And then I had to load them all in because they were too tired to walk back. But the beach, you could practically walk stark naked in the 50s, all the way from the lighthouse to Blind Pass, except for Casabel and Island Inn. There was nobody on the island. Of course, there were no roads. You had to drive slowly. And just sand track trails mostly.
Yes, right along the beach. And one of the stories, it's not really risque, but I remember when Pat Murphy was he was the mailman.
Yeah.
And one of the stories he told us is about going down along the beach and this girl lying bare topped on the thing, and when she heard the mailman coming along there, she jumped up and went, "Ah!"
That sounds like my roommate, because she was always naked on the beach.
That was one of the stories. But
I walked, but she'd get the chase.
But that was one of the stories that made the rounds, and I thought that was so funny.
And an airplane found out she was on the beach, and it would buzz her every so often.
Right. And I remember that the sponge pectins I don't know of any other year that sponge pectins came in like that. I found all of them. I found even a lemon pectin that year, the only one I've ever found. But they were inside the sponges.
Yeah. I found them out on the reef. I started to scuba dive when I was 68.
Oh God, I wish I could.
And I used to go out on the reef. I first started with the hires. And I must have 15 lemon pectins I got out there. I've got a beautiful collection. And lion's paws too.
Yeah.
All out there, about 40 miles out, around 80 feet of water.
You ever found a Genonia, Edie?
I found 9 one night.
Oh, come on, really?
You know, when I owned the property down by the boat, we had a hurricane. And there was that depression where they brought the boat in and filled in, and they didn't fill it all the way in. And the shells came in and just banked up in there. And I took a little rake and I found 9, and I still have all 9 of them.
You're
I wouldn't
kidding.
part with them for anything.
I've got enough pieces to make up a 9, but that's about it. I never have found
Those
the
are
holes
what you
in
call
them.
heartbreaks.
Yeah, I know. I was behind Eula Rhodes one night when she picked one up right in front of me.
I don't think
almost killed
Priscilla
her,
ever
but
found her lemon picton that she looked for.
I don't
but,
know. I don't know. But those were really, it was really great shelling. I don't know. They say that it's not quite like that, but I don't think we've had the storms like that. I don't remember any storms coming.
Oh, in the 60s, we had 7 hurricanes, as I remember,
Yeah.
because I finally got awnings and storm shutters, and I haven't used them since.
That's
The 70s
no, that's
and the 80s, I didn't have any time I ever got them out of the garage.
well,
But I had alligators in my pond out back,
I know.
and I was sitting out there with my dog one day and looked up, and here was a great big one coming right toward me. And
Yeah.
I grabbed the dog and called Cipriani and said, "Fill it in." But you know, right over there in back of me where John was that mosquito ditch, and they were in there. And they just came over. But the thing I liked about this street, the beautiful periwinkles. Whole length of the street,
I know.
both sides of the
I know.
street. And you know, there are not
I
many
know.
of them left.
I know.
I know they tried to grow some, and they didn't have much success with them at all, you know, along the bike path. But that's the reason
Well,
they
I think
call
there's
it
too many
periwinkle
fumes
Lake.
and too much people, you know, I just don't think they're going to have much success there.
And there was very little Brazilian pepper. There was some because the robins came at Christmas time and New Year's, and they got drunk.
Don't they though?
Oh,
Oh,
it was the
Lord,
funniest thing to watch.
nothing like a drunk robin.
They eat those Brazilian peppers, and they'd fall on the ground. But I had a lot of them because of the pond in there. They had to have water when they were.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of fun. I remember when we did the Girl Scouts. I had all the girls because, because there weren't that many of them, and maybe 9 or 10 of them, all the way from Donna Wiles down to my little girls. And so we just took them all. And I think I had probably the first Volkswagen before, you know, the buses. And we used to pile them up in there and do all kinds of things. Well, anyway, I took, that was my shoe. We used to go to the beach, and we learned to light fires, we learned to cook on the beach, and I remember each girl had things to do, and one of the things that we had to learn was to make the girls learn by their mistakes. That was one of the things that, as a leader, we had to make the girls do. And the girls would forget to bring cups and things, and we would pick up these shells, you know, the cups and things, and they would drink out of them, and we would have these nice campfires on the beach and everything. Of course, I don't know that they're allowed to do that anymore.
Not anymore, no.
But it's really too bad, you know. It's what one person can have, then a lot of people. It's nice to share all these things, but it comes to a point where it cannot be
They were
shared
taking
because
the furniture from the motels and burning them and things like that, and that's the reason. And it was dangerous because they played games around it. You know, they were drinking too.
well,
And so the fire department just stopped it.
well,
They couldn't afford to set the woods on fire, 'cause
no.
I can remember back
Tell us
when,
the names of some of the girls. You said
oh,
Donna
Mary,
Wiles.
no.
Oh my goodness! Let's see.
You're 3.
There's my 3. There's Alice, Dina, and Mary Ann, and oh goodness. There's Donna Wiles. I remember her because she was the oldest and helped.
Did you have Mary Nix's girl?
I had yes, I had yes.
Up the street that the carpenter.
You know those two girls that lived, they didn't stay here very long. They lived on the Sanibel Captiva Road, right around the corner as you turn the
I don't
corner.
remember
No.
You didn't have any of the little black girls, did you?
No, unfortunately we didn't.
You know, that
No, we
that was
didn't.
real sad, and I was real glad when finally they didn't have to go over on the ferry.
Well, I really, I kind of proud of that because my brother was the principal.
I know he was.
Yeah, he was the principal of the school, and he was the one that kind of integrated the school that year. And there was a big article in the Miami. It seems like outsiders always agitating, and
Yeah.
they were Miami people came up here, and here was these lone or whoever it was, just a couple of black children walking up the side of the walk, and nothing happened. Everybody accepted them. But the truth was, I was president of the PTA that year, and it had come down through the powers that be in Fort Myers, and they said at that time to take a poll on the island, who wanted it, us to integrate and who didn't. And I went to Francis Bailey, and Francis.
Oh yeah, I know what he said.
Well, I'm not sure that he did. Francis, had his upbringing, and he had his beliefs. But I talked to him and I said, after we got through, we decided that we would not take a poll, that we would obey the law, that we would not have, because if we did this island would get torn asunder, and we cared more for this island. Francis and I talked down at his old store for over an hour, more than that.
Well, Carol Gear and I started it, and we were putting the bug in your brother's ear when he came, because Carol Gear was leaving. And
yes, well,
she said she didn't want to get in the middle of it.
Well,
and,
she wasn't. Yeah, she was not
but
she
was
principal
pushing it over in Fort Myers.
Well, I don't know who came from Fort Myers, but this is what it was. I mean, that's the intelligence. They wanted us to take a poll.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the people here who well, you can't blame them. I didn't blame them because there's no blame to be put on anybody, because this is the way they were raised. This is what they believed in.
Yeah, they were all seven.
But the truth was that it was the most peaceful integration, and these Miami people tucked their tails between their legs and went home.
I felt
We had
so
no
sorry
problems.
for those
We really
little
didn't.
black kids having to wait for that bus. They couldn't even ride on the ferry with the white people.
Yeah.
And then they had to wait till after the last ferry to get back home.
Well, let me tell you something, Edie. My daughter, Mary Ann, also, because when they changed the laws, had to go all the way out to Michigan Link School, and so she was bused the 45 miles a day, every single day, to go to school. Although there were closer schools, there was school on the island, school at Cypress Lake, school all along the way, but she was bused out there to integrate the school out there. So it was tit for tat. It's too bad, but we can go a little bit too much one way or another. It's a sad state of affairs.
All over the country.
You didn't do it, I didn't do it. We did everything we could to undo it, and I think on the island we have done beautifully.
I think the people have stuck together in an
an
awful lot of
I know we
things.
have.
They lost out on the bridge, but I don't think they knew about the bridge soon enough. That was sort of snuck up on them by buying that property on both sides and giving it, and then the bridge came over because they couldn't hold them from not buying property. But a lot of people have hated that bridge. I don't. They talk about how expensive it was. It isn't it expensive if you went on the ferry back and forth with 4 or 5 people in it.
No, but
Because
it was fun.
It was $1.50 for the car and driver and 50 cents for each passenger.
And you wouldn't have the traffic tie up on You'd have the tie-up, I suppose, down at the other
No,
end,
you got
one way
stuck
or
in
the
the,
other.
you got stuck in the mud once in a while, but you had an
No.
extreme low tide, but that was
Right.
fun.
Right.
But it was
Right.
20 minutes of nice, restful coming across the bay.
I thought those days, I remember coming over here, I always thought that if personally, if I could have had the financial security that some people had, and the time, it must have been heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But having
You had to work all the time?
well, it wasn't just that. I mean, raising, you know, I was a single mother with
Yeah.
3 children, and the business was here only, you know, we're getting $2 for shampoo and set, and maybe you'd get 2 people a day, and maybe you didn't. And some of the things we did was like sending out a check for it's $14 light bill and not signing it so that they would
You'd
send
have time to get
send it
money in
back
the
to
bank.
you, and by the time they got it back to you, you could do something else. But I guess a lot of people have to do what they have to do. But there were a lot of
A lot of
remember-
wonderful people on the
Oh
farm.
yeah, the Stalins. The Stalins were here.
Mhm.
They started that business of going back and forth, and
The Webbs.
and yes, and the Webbs and the Galts
And
and yeah.
who did Sanibel Siesta? What was her name? Dot and Dottie Booker married.
Oh yeah, the McQuaid.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
McQuaid.
McQuaid. Yes, yeah.
And of course the Flues and
Yeah.
and the Bellheimers and
Yeah, and the Stokeses, of course, they were here. Jake,
Yeah,
Jake
Jake
was,
and-
oh, he was a love. He used to take people out on those shelling trips.
Mhm.
That was just
we used to take them
wonderful.
fishing because my brother-in-law always would
Yeah,
engage and go
yeah.
tarpon fishing every time he
Right.
came down.
Right, right.
But I learned to ski on the beach.
You
Now,
did.
everyone thought we were crazy, but we tied 2 ski ropes on the side of the car, and one would drive the car 60 miles an hour up the beach and ski right off the beach. And then I used to go fishing up at the lighthouse with Donald Hires and who were the fellows that were in trouble all the time. We used to fish for sharks all night. Had great big rubber tires and heavy chain, and we'd get a shark and put them up on the beach, and people didn't like that. They didn't want to know there was
Do you
sharks
remember
around.
the twins up on Captiva, Julia Cunningham and Althea Brooks, the twins? They were up on Captiva, and they were the best snook fisher people around. They would fish with the poles, and they would fill up, I mean, wheelbarrows on the bridge
Sure.
full of snook.
I fished mostly
They-
at redfish bass or up at the lighthouse,
I mean,
and I used to take my fish to the Gavins because I never could use all of it. You know, you can only eat so much fish. And the
I'd
Gavins
give
with
anything for
20
a
kids.
piece right now. I'd give anything for a piece right now.
But the Gavins with all those children and old old grandpa and Carl's father that used to live down on the Tarpon Bay Road in that little shack. Anytime that him or father and mother we had fish, we'd take it to them.
You know, talk about the Gavins. When we first, when I first moved here, on the corner, you know, there was a 3 or 4. It was a 4-sided building, but it didn't have a front door. It's sort of like a garage or a building. It didn't have a floor in it, but I guess it was some. But it did have the sides and the roof. Let's see, who was it? The Belton Johnson. We bought from Belton Johnson. I guess you remember Belton
Yeah,
Johnson? up on-
he took
Captiva,
fishing parties, and I
yes, he
think
did.
his house has been given like this
Yeah.
one up in the back of
Yeah.
the library.
Well, when we moved there, we took the Gavins came and they put this barn. I guess it was a chicken coop or something on the back of the truck. Took it into the where they used to live, and set it up on a thing. I don't know whether they ever put a floor in it or anything, but they added to
Well,
their
they
house.
had
And
5 or
they
6
had
of
to
those
have, oh,
chicken coops in there
and
they
that was
lived
part
in.
of their compound
Yeah, they
there.
lived in it.
Yeah,
You know, you'd
And
go
that
in
was
and
it.
every older kid would have a
Yeah.
little kid on a hip.
yeah. But then later on, I thought it was very, very
Generous of the
generous of
girls,
the
yeah.
girls to do what they did, and because they got a beautiful home out of that.
The oldest, the young Edmonds was still working for me. He does my yard work for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. We had all the kids were working for us either at the Grove or someplace. All of them went
Yeah.
through the Kitchen Grove.
And Jimmy, I think he's employed by the city, isn't he? The older,
I'm not sure, really.
Jordan boy. And Carla Mozella still working on
Oh
that.
yeah. You know, she doesn't look a day older than she
No.
ever. God, she's
I
gorgeous.
saw her at Nita Bell's funeral the other day, and she looked just like she did 30, 40 years
She
ago.
certainly does. Love
Carl
her, love
just
her.
finished painting my house, and he did a wonderful job on
Great,
it.
great.
But-
Well, I'll be darned.
There were a lot of very fine families.
I know it.
They were fun families too. They
Yeah,
did
they
things
were.
together. The island's gotten so big now that they don't do. all
Well,
the-
I see people, and a lot of people recognize me, but I don't. I don't know how they know me because I don't know anybody anymore. Very few people.
Well, you know, you
It
used to
just-
go shopping at Bailey's and
Yeah.
take you an hour and a
Yeah.
half because you had to stop and talk to
Yeah,
everyone.
I know it.
But
I
now
know
you
it.
hardly know anyone.
I know it. I know it. Well, that's just the way it
Because
is.
all the club groups have gotten so big. The community association has a big group now. The Shell Club is one of the largest shell clubs it's second largest in the world.
Well, I
And,
remember the Shell Club when we started it. I was the first acting president.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was the first. I was.
She was only about 2 or 3 months, wasn't she?
No, what happened was we started the Shell Club, and Churchill was elected president.
Yeah.
Sylvia Strong was something, and Priscilla was, I think she was treasurer, something
else,
like that. And I was the.
McCall.
But we only had the organizational meeting, and Churchill went up to Tennessee, and they never came back.
Yeah.
I mean, and so.
Well, that's, you see, when I rented their place.
Yeah, and
It was
so
in the
I
60s.
was then, acting president for that year, and then I was elected on my own. Then there was somebody, I forget, I don't know if it was you or, see, I really don't remember things in sequence.
Maud Meyer came, Harvey
been-
Meyer was president before me. I was
Well,
president of 65.
yeah, but I was president for many years
Yeah.
because I was terms even there'd be other people in between, but we had a lot of fun, and it wasn't. I know it's a lot of fun. I'm going to take them off. It was a lot of fun that we had. I'm sure today that they are learning a lot more. But we had a lot of fun just sort of being together and talking things over, and we would find out what we did. Do you remember the days when we would get to the Shell Fair and there weren't any ribbons to pass out? There weren't any, do you remember who it was? We won't mention the name. But
I don't remember who.
All right, it was the lady that used to dance with the white, with the George White, with the Follies. Do you know who I'm talking about? Always.
Pirate Playhouse?
No.
No,
But she was on the beach, and she had a lot of shells, her mother, through the family. And then they moved down at the end of Main Street, okay? All right.
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. And
Peggy
she
Maloney.
No, it wasn't Peggy. No, it wasn't
No?
Peggy. No, Peggy. Peggy was never chairman of the Shell Fair.
No.
No.
Well, then I can't remember.
All right, well, that's just as well,
Okay.
because she she was chairman, and here we were ready, and to have the thing, and we didn't have any ribbons. The thing was set up, no ribbons, And so we went over to Helen Denny, and she said, well, let's get some ribbons. And so we dashed into town and got this rolls of, in fact, I one of one of them. It's a little, just a regular little blue ribbon, and we just, just marked on them, for the things, and that's how we got the ribbons.
And then boxes in my garage. They're all ready for the fair next 2 weeks from now.
Oh, well, and
they have at night now. They're having an hour before the meeting where they're identifying, helping people, and
that's great.
Quite
That's
a
great.
nice little education.
That's great. My first fair that I remember was, then the first thing I remember going up to the building was Clarence Rutland, and I'm pretty sure it was Jake Stokes stirring a great big pot of swamp cabbage in the yard. That was the dinner. That was the lunch.
Yeah.
Swamp cabbage. And that was Clarence Rutland.
Yeah, because I used to go and help Uncle Arthur get swamp cabbage, and when we had up underneath the lighthouse. Fish fry and swamp cabbage.
Yeah.
And I can remember watching Uncle Clarence make the first hush puppies. I was in New England and I never saw a hush puppy.
Yeah.
And he was working there and he had 2 cans of beer, one on each side. And he was stirring the hush puppies and everything, and then he'd all of a sudden reach out and take some beer, and then he'd dump some in the hush puppy.
That's right.
And I thought, now, is he drunk or should he be doing that?
Yeah.
And afterwards, his wife told me that was a leveling, but that was a new experience to me. And yet I cook things and beer all the time now.
Yeah. Well, then they got, so many people got to come to the fair that I remember we used to gather for several years. We'd go to the Coconut Grove. They used to donate either sandwiches or fried chicken, and we would all go there. Helen Friday and Sylvia Strong, and I'm sure you were a part of it.
Yeah,
and Bella and John and all of us would go there, and we would make up all these lunch boxes and sandwiches and give them to the people, and that's what they would have for lunch. That's what they would sell there. And
the community association is selling quite a lot of stuff.
Oh, I can see now, yeah.
But I think the Shell Club doesn't have anything to do with the outside and the selling of the food and the selling of shells and everything.
I don't even remember who profited from it or anything.
Well, they built the community association.
I think it was the community association.
That's
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
It's all paid for now. I think
wonderful.
The biggest expense this year was connecting to sewer. And I understand that was something like $40,000.
Isn't it awful?
Terrible to connect up to that, but that's what the money has been used for all these years, is building that extension and updating and air conditioning and cleaning and grounds, and then they bought the property across the street, and that's what the money's been used for. Now what they're going to use it for this year, I don't know, but they do well on it. Because we sell nothing except our T-shirts and the only money we make is what we take in. Now they're charging to go into the fair.
Well, I haven't entered anything for years now, mostly because my interests have, my priorities are elsewhere, really.
Oh, it takes such a long time.
And I know, and truly, I have put mine in, like each shell is individually in its own case, and then Priscilla Murphy gave or sold. I guess she really sort of sold me. We took it out in trade at one point. Her cases, beautiful cases, with a little shallow drawers at the top and then the bigger ones at the bottom, and I have all my shells in there. And if I took them apart, then it would just be, you know, I just can't
She
do
bought
that.
those cases for me. I had the.
Did she really?
I had the,
You're right. You were selling them.
I was selling them.
Well, I got 'em.
They're beautiful, and,
They're
and the big
beautiful.
ones, now the museum got all the shelves, you know, before, when she was going up to Sun City. And she gave everything, her books and everything, and we decided we couldn't use the cabinets because they took up more room than, you know, the storage racks were
Yeah.
going to have. So we're selling off some of those things. Boxes that come in with shelves in them and all kinds of things, and but we can't do very much until we actually get to the place where we got a building.
Right.
Now, I hope the building's gonna be started this year, but I don't know.
Oh, well. Things happen, and then when they're all finished, you just wonder where the time went. You know who did a lot of work with the shell was Elise Fuller.
Yeah.
She now that was a beautiful lady.
Mhm.
That was a beautiful lady. Yeah.
Yeah, Elise, when I first came to the island, as soon as she found out about it, when I came to live, she sent for me and she said, I know your father. And I
Oh,
said, you
really?
do? And she said, yes, you probably don't remember, but my husband and I owned the old corner bookstore up near the State House in Boston, and your father did all our gold leather work. Now, isn't that funny to come
Isn't
this
that
far?
something?
So when I came down to live, I bought about 600-700 books, and we started them in the library, or when it was in the community house. Do you remember? Used
Yes,
to
I
be
remember
where the
that.
kitchen
Sure,
is, yeah.
sure,
But I
absolutely.
bought down books,
Sure.
a whole load of them,
That's great.
and.
That's great. I didn't know who had done that, but I mean that
Well,
you had that you
Dad
had
being
done that.
in that business, on Friday night, any book that was damaged was thrown into a box, and the people who worked there could buy them for 10 cents. And Friday nights, pay nights, he'd come home with a whole load of books.
Load of books. That's wonderful.
I never remember learning how to read. I read before I went to school.
That's
But,
great.
he was very interested in getting us good books, and
Yeah, that's wonderful.
but that's how I knew Elise.
Yeah. Well, she
Carolyn
was.
Porter's bought her house.
Oh, really?
She's a very nice lady,
I haven't
and she
seen her
has
for a long
macular
time.
degeneration too. She can't
Does she get
drive
around?
anymore.
Does she get around?
Well, when I was driving, I used to pick her up and take her to the Joys, but now she has daughter and nieces that come and stay 2 or 3 months with her, and let's see, Jean Culpepper goes there a lot, and I
she
think
does,
Jean may be
yeah.
taking care of her financial things because she did a lot as far as Carice Fox. She
Right.
used to help Carice Fox a lot.
Uh-huh.
But I know that Jean, she's been to my place in Jean's car, so she's getting around.
Yeah.
She's a nice lady.
Yeah. I don't think I know her.
Tell us some about the diving that you were doing,
You're the one that did the diving.
the diving.
She said you did diving.
Oh,
Do-
yeah, I dove mostly out here and down the Keys. I didn't dive when I went to South Pacific or any place because it's too hard to take all your equipment with you, but it was fascinating to go out there. The water gets clear when you get out about 40 miles, and you go down, and there's not coral out there, there's rock ledges. You know, coral rock and regular ledges, and you can sit on it, and you can see the shells on it. They're fascinating to watch, particularly the spondylus. And you know, you have to sit, and all of a sudden you'll see it open up and the water come out of it because it's got so much corruption all over it. It's well, it's all kinds of little, I found little tiny baby spondylus that big on them. I never realized that they did that, but I have some less than a quarter of an inch, the Americanus. But it's fun to watch them move around, and they more or less have a territory and stay in it. Of course, the spondylus don't move, and the lion's paw don't move that much. But the red tide was terrible on the lion's paws. They fell to the bottom when they smothered, and they fell to the bottom, and the part that was down edges and stay on them. Now the scallops, they move all the time, but the lion's paws seem to have little place, and they have a byssus, and they hang on, and they just stay there and pulsate, and it's fascinating to watch them.
Say, Lynn, when sometime we're going to have to get some of these shells and
Yes.
to intersperse.
Tell us about how deep the water was that you're talking about too. So that
Don't you have any other than Mary shells?
Any of the what?
Don't you have any shells other than Mary's?
Here?
Yeah.
No.
Well, we better do something about that.
Remember, Clarence, I never was in the house when Clarence Rutland lived in it, but people have told me that he had shell collections in the front hall. And, of course, no one knows what happened to them at this point, but do you remember seeing them? How were they displayed?
Yeah, he just had it was just like a tall, skinny table with a glass top, and there really wasn't much. What I saw, if maybe when I saw them, but that was at the very, very end, and they could have been vandalized, or not vandalized, but you know, somebody
Uncle
could have,
Clarence?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard he had a lot of them, but I never saw.
Well, maybe he gave them to Jim because Jim was in
Jim was in the
business.
business.
Yeah, he might
Yeah,
have given them to Jim.
because when I saw them, I really was, you know, I was almost appalled, because I really was, I thought, gee, I was going to get to see some really, really good shells, but they really weren't. So.
I thought a lot of them, he got a lot from Jake. Jake used to get things out there. He dredged a little bit, and
Oh, that
I
dredging.
dredged some. And I used to go out about 10 miles and dredge 2 loads and come right back in. I'd go, you know, at just daylight. Because during the summer, you get caught in the storm out there. And,
Right.
and I just had a little 19-foot runabout boat. It was fast. But I wasn't going to be out there during one of those big storms that come up.
No.
Because I'd seen water spouts right off the beach there when I was staying at Hires. And
Yeah.
but if you want some shells, I'll give you all the shells you want. You might as well get them while I got them.
I gave 2 collections to town, and I mean really beautiful collections. One was in the arcade that, what was that restaurant where the buses used to stop?
It was a cafeteria.
It was a
type.
cafeteria, do you know?
I don't know
And they
whatever
used to have
happened to
these
those,
cases
yeah.
up front, and the news press used to be in the back.
And then they used to have a collection in the airport.
And then, no, the other one, well, I don't know about that, but the other one that I gave and went up and set it up was in the Chamber of Commerce. And the last time I saw Don Bordorf, I said to him, what happened to the shells that are here? He's got a collection there now from the shell factory, and they're from, you know, just worldwide dumb shells that you can buy, and they're not from this area. And I had so somebody caught those, and it's just really, I don't know what you can do about doing, you know, giving things like that, because I personally put these 2 really nice collections, and I just don't know what
Actually,
happened to
there's
them.
right back when I was doing it, I did that big picture that's in the office at the school. Do you remember? walnut frame and Sanibel shells all with their names and everything on it. I did that for them up there at the school.
Great.
I'd be glad to, but you know, you almost have to have some place to put them. They're stealing the shells off the one at the lighthouse. We do it over every year.
Well,
They break the glass and take the shells
these could
right
not
out
have
of them.
been gotten into. Listen, look what I brought.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to copy because Tucker is keeping. I wish I could find out where all of those things went. But I think Faye may have them, but Faye hasn't been well, and I haven't seen her at Shell Club.
Well, this is the original pig. And early in our Shell Club, we put out a little book. It was called Collecting, Cleaning, and Conservation. The collecting part was written by Priscilla Murphy, the cleaning was written by Maud Meyer, and I wrote the conservation part. And I got Joe Galt, there's his initials right there, JG, and I said, Joe, I want you to draw me up a picture of some kind of a pig, something that, you know, just taking everything. And this was his interpretation of it, just cleaning up the beach behind him. And we didn't have any money to print these things, but we got, the Chamber of Commerce gave us some money in town from Fort Myers, and so did one of the banks in town, gave us some money, and we got some printing done, and I can remember sitting up and we actually stapled them together with little green covers, and we put out thousands and thousands and thousands of these little books, collecting, cleaning, and conservation. And this was way back when we really, you know, it was
60s.
before people, yes, it was in the 60s, before people really thought about it, but we knew, because what got to us was all the stories of people collecting these huge amount of shells, buckets, and throwing them by the roadside on the way home because they got to stinking, they got to smelling, so they just threw them away on the roadside on the way home.
4,000, one little kid came in and told me they had olives.
Well, see, there you
to
go.
take to
And the
Wisconsin.
truth was that you could go to the, you really literally could go to the beach and you could pick up that many. Everybody could.
Picked them up by the hundreds just to get the gold.
They picked them up because they were there. It was a matter of just not knowing, really. A lot of us, we didn't know. But it just offended us in the Shell Club, and so we did put out this booklet, and we did, I think we started this conservation thing. I hope if anybody has one of these booklets, I unfortunately do not. Edith thought she had one the last time we talked. She said she thought she had one.
There you go.
Helen Friday might. I don't
and of
know
course,
if
Faye Muller might have them in if she has those books.
yeah, you said that Faye might because she had
because
some.
she, as far as I knew, she had the books that Messarian. And I know they were turned over to her, but she said we didn't do it.
Well, somebody has them. I know that the early historian books and things have turned up missing.
They were big notebooks in.
But Edie,
what
I
was the
will.
name on Captiva?
Now that I'm on camera, I will let you take this and use it as you will.
Good. Well, all I'll do is put it on the
Yeah, I would like.
canon, and I will.
I think it's important enough that the Shell Museum
The museum is the one
should
that
have
is,
it, but I don't want it to just
No,
fall by the
no,
wayside
no.
because it really is. It's important.
Well, of course it is. But I will see if I can get, it's hard to get to Faye, and if she does, why, you know, we can give it back to her. We can put it on a copying machine and
I just really don't know, like I said, unfortunately, I know I don't have any, because I have looked
The
and
one on
looked.
the flyer that I did when I was president, and we had
Yeah.
11 by,
Yeah, the big
8.5
sheets,
by
uh-huh.
11, and Betty Puff did it
Uh-huh.
for us.
We used the
because
pig.
We didn't, yeah, we
You
used the pig, but not a pretty one like Joe's.
Wasn't it that pig? Didn't you take it out of the?
I think she copied it, but not exactly
Oh,
the
really?
same. I don't
Oh,
think she.
I thought it was the same pig
I
taken
don't, I
out
don't
of the.
think she did. Maybe in your book you did.
That's what I
But
thought.
in our flyers, no, and we had a terrible time. We took them to the motels and asked them to put them in the back of the bathroom door and give them out, and we asked them over at the, where you come on the bridge, what's the name, where they collect the money? We asked them to give
Toll.
them out, told it,
Yay!
told, and they wouldn't do it,
They wouldn't?
no. And then we put them in the Chamber of Commerce, and people did get them from there. But I don't know how much good it did.
Well, some people.
We try anyway.
Yeah. Some people, all it takes is just for them to understand and know, and they, they will do what's right.
Well, there was a man here about 4 weeks ago at that extreme low tide that was caught up at Blind Pass with 50 angel wings in a bucket. And a tourist called in, and the police came and brought a shovel, and made him put them all back in the mud.
Well, that was good.
And I think that was wonderful.
That was good. That was good.
And find them too. But
That was good.
I know that there was people staying up at the honeymoon cottage there at Blind Pass that used to go out every low tide and get them and make chowder out of angel wing.
Yes.
And they're so
yes.
beautiful, and to do that.
Yes,
to
I remember people, but then they considered them sort of like clams, you know. But I remember in the beauty shop people coming in and with buckets of them and saying that they made wonderful hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I couldn't imagine looking at them. The animal itself was so horrible looking. I couldn't imagine wanting to eat it. But the shells, of course, were beautiful.
They just put them in the grinder and grind them up and make little.
Oh well, I never went that far. I didn't. It's catching.
Well, I'm getting over a cold too. It seemed to me everyone that I know that came here on a plane got a cold right after they got here. And I had a guest, she had a cold at 2 days, so Thor had guests. And then she got the cold and the sister got the cold, and it's just going around. And they're bad colds too.
Yeah. You know what I liked? Oh.
Tell us some about the red tide. You mentioned the red
Yeah.
tide in relation to the shells. Get back to that maybe a little bit.
Well, I think the red tide was blamed for killing off an awful lot of shells. I suppose it did. I would assume if it did, I really don't know. You know why? I have my own theory on that. Because don't they say that the red tide is up on top of the water? And all the shells are down in the bottom. And I thought, well, here's a red tide, then all these dead shells should come floating in. Well, they didn't.
No, there were no shells.
There were no shells. Now,
Fish.
my own theory, I don't understand it. So I'm not a scientist. So I know you're not hearing what the popular theory is. But I thought if shells were really killed by this, now some of the shells that got up into it, the fish, yes, because they are in the water, they were breathing and they were there. But I just don't understand it. I would feel that being turned loose or being dead, that they would be actually just tossed up.
Well, it's the only reason they say not to eat the clams or the
Yeah.
mussels or
Yeah.
the oysters
Yeah.
is the fact that it's toxic if you eat it,
Yeah,
and it makes you sick.
yeah,
It doesn't hurt them because they filter that right out.
yeah.
It's in my knowledge, and of course the big ones, they just
Yeah.
close up and get underneath.
Yeah,
and
see, I don't know. I really don't know from
if you
this.
know the habits of them, you know there's no way possible that the red tide is killing them.
I
I
just,
wouldn't think so.
this is,
What was it like here during?
oh, it was smelly and it was bad and you could choke to death.
That place down on the beach I had.
Yeah.
Oh.
It really was very, very bad.
You
And,
You go down at 6 o'clock in the morning and rake them all up in a pile and then dig a great big hole and rake them into the hole, and it was really awful.
How long did it last?
oh, long time.
Sometimes be a week, so one time it was 6 weeks.
It was a long time.
71.
And they would take tractors and things and just dig things and bury them, some of the
On the
motels.
causeway and
Yeah,
back in the
everywhere,
mangroves,
yeah.
you couldn't
Mhm.
get near the mangroves,
No.
they smelled so bad.
But something would come into the air and you would know, even if you didn't know it was there, you could smell it. I mean, it would just get you in the throat.
You'd cough and your nose would run and your eyes would smart.
That's right.
It
It really would.
gave off a
And,
gas that
uh-huh.
you didn't even have to see it.
You didn't have to see it.
No.
No, you knew it was there.
But we haven't had much of it
No,
in
we've
the
been,
last few years.
we've been fortunate.
And they said actually that it was when the salinity in the water reached a certain temperature, then this bloom would float up and burst. Well, now that's not true, because they have just as much red tide up off the Maine coast and the some of the Canadians, Labrador and some, they have it up there. And it can't be salinity and heat that does it,
Yeah, I don't know.
because our water is a lot more saline than the ocean, because the evaporation is so much here,
Yeah.
where the ocean isn't.
Edie, was the little post office still here down where the bridge, where the ferry came in? Was the little post office still there?
Yeah, and Scotia
Bryant was still there.
was the postmaster.
She was so real
And,
nice, and the
she-
girls had their little
The
restaurant
little-
there.
Right beside it.
Yeah.
Now Scotia lived in that house, I think, next to where the girls were.
That's
Uh,
right. With her
but,
mother, Rosa.
Scotia and Priscilla and Esperanza and I used to go to Bimini and down the Keys together.
Oh, you did.
And those were trips that really were fantastic.
Well, I went with Priscilla down to the Keys, but that was as far as we got.
Yeah, we went over to Bimini with and the funny part of it was that Esperanza was seasick all the way over on the boat. Of all
Esperanza, I can't
people,
believe
yeah.
it.
Priscilla
I can-
and Scotia were. I wasn't sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
And I loved the ferry boats coming over, and the kids would love it, throwing bread up to the
To the seagulls.
seagulls, and I thought that was a lot of fun. We have pictures of those. We have some pictures that we just put on video now. In fact, I was looking at them the other day. Very interesting, some of the old things. And
I don't wonder where those ferries went. Dick was talking to me about it the other day. He was one of the ones that was going to blow the bridge up.
well,
Now he'd know a lot of history.
Would you talk some more about
His family owned the Hurricane House. What was their name? Do you remember?
what's that?
Kern?
Dick Kearns?
Yeah, Dick Kearns.
Yeah.
Now he's down the East Hardware.
Yes, right.
And
That's right.
he used to be manager at Castlebell, and he would be a good one to interview.
We have him on the list.
Have you had him?
No, but we have him on a list.
Uh-huh. Oh, he was vicious about the bridge. He was one of the ones on the last ferry trip.
Mhm.
And they had 2 or 3 scares about that bridge with bombs under it. Do you remember when the roads, Ray Roads went down and I don't know what they did to it. They finally got it in the water and towed it out and from an airplane shot it and it was just someone's suitcase that floated in, I guess. Old junky one.
They thought it was a bomb, but it wasn't.
Pardon?
They thought it was a bomb, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
they thought it was the bomb because it was wedged under one of the pilings but anyway, they got a rope on it and towed it out and
Right.
then shot it out there.
Right.
Nothing in it except clothes, paper. But I think that was funny.
Well, I know this may sound funny, but I remember when I first came here, the road was only paved up to where up to the Coconut Grove, or up to the
Yeah.
shopping center now.
Yeah,
And after that, it was all dirt road.
yeah. They were
And-
building Tarpon Bay the first year I came.
Well, that was,
I had to
yeah.
go down to Island Inn by the old back Island Inn Road.
Uh-huh. The story was that you could, if you went from Sanibel to Captiva, you could pick up enough car parts to build you a car at the
Just
other end.
Oh, it was rough.
That was
35 miles an hour
It was
or more,
about
you
true,
get shaken to death.
Yeah, and the Rhodeses, the old, what was his name that used to run?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Rhodes, yeah,
Yeah.
but what was his first name?
I
We had
can't
several
think of it,
Rhodes families here. The one that used to run the thing that,
Is that Henry or?
it ran.
The grader.
Henry Rhodes,
Yeah,
yeah, the
Henry
grader.
Rhodes, yeah.
He ran the grader.
Mhm.
He ran the grader. They were quite a family. They were quite
They
a
were
family.
one of he was, the 2 boys, what was their name?
Harvey?
Ray? No, it was
Yeah.
Irvin and J.B. And Donald Hyatts were the ones I fished with off the fishing pier
Mhm.
for sharks.
You picked the good ones.
Yeah.
They were good kids. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know the other thing, I was wandering around, a friend of mine has a boat down at Wolford Point. And I was wandering around there. I didn't get into the woods, but I was looking for the orchids used to be in there, and I couldn't find a one.
Really?
They're putting roads through there now, and they're going to start to develop in there. I don't know how many houses and golf links, but they've got a lot of it closed off already.
Really?
And the Craigs
Yeah, they.
had to move back to their house. They're not down there anymore.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
When they were doing the dunes, I went in there and pulled a lot of orchids and things off, and I've got them all in my trees at home.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I hope to find at least one clump. I've seen clumps that big.
yeah,
you
they
know,
were
and
beautiful.
You,
yeah.
to get them out of the palmetto trees, you're all covered with palmetto bugs and everything
Yeah,
else.
that's true. You did that.
Huh?
You did that.
Yeah. But they were beautiful, and they're so delicate. And I'm afraid
Yeah.
they're just gonna cut all that stuff out down there and destroy everything.
Well, they'll still be there. They won't be where you were used to seeing them, but
No.
they'll be there. They'll be in the
But that's good
in
high
the
land
things,
down
they-
there.
yeah.
It should,
yeah.
there's
they'll-
not as much pepper down there as
That's what they've got to get rid of, that pepper.
Well, that's what
They've
we have.
really got to get rid of that pepper. That takes over everything.
Yeah, I wish they'd done that instead of Melaleuca.
Well, did they get rid of all of it? They took some of mine down.
What?
I know, Melaleucas.
I lost 92 trees. You know, I had them in 3 sides.
Yeah, I know you did. I know.
Never had one that a spur or anything came up, but they still said I had.
Well, the
taken
thing of
them
it
out.
is that the
And now the
seeds,
pepper's
flowers
taken
fly
over
out.
where they've taken them out.
Well, chop them down.
I can't, I'm allergic to it.
Tell a city, look, I got
Just-
peppers here.
Just like
Get 'em
poison ivy.
down. Take them down.
Just like poison
Yeah.
ivy, but they're not on
Yeah.
my property, they're on John's and back and the
Not John.
cheeseburger on the other
It's
side.
all Bailey's now.
Is that all Bailey's now?
We sold it to Bailey's. Everything's Bailey's.
Tell us about the mosquitoes.
Ooh, the mosquitoes. When I first came to the island, this was even before my brother came here. The government was running some kind of a.
Pat Murphy was doing it.
Well, I don't know what it was, but they had these cyanide traps, and in back of this little house that was on the corner where the I don't know what it is, where the Coconut Grove was. I don't know what the name of the place is now, but at the shopping center, and it was a little house, and in back of it, on the tree, hung this cyanide trap, which they started off with pint jars, then they put quart jars, and I can't tell you how many mosquitoes each quart jar was supposed to fill, but it would be overflowing, and they would be just dead down in the thing in the morning. They would just be that many mosquitoes. You couldn't go out at night. There was no
I
way.
wore a hat and a collar fastened up and gloves and elastics and socks over my pants when I went fishing at night. And you'd
Yeah.
just be black from them. Even,
Yeah.
and if you use the telephone, do you remember when that first telephone you could call out?
Yeah, I
but not
remember.
in? You had to take someone with you to pump the bug stuff so you could talk on the telephone and get a call off.
I
the
remember
other.
election night when we had to call in the things. I remember the one night that I had to call in the election results. 84 votes for the whole island.
Yeah.
84 votes. And we went down there. I thought they were going to carry me away. That's how many people were here on the island at that time. 84 people. I don't know how many people vote here now.
I
It's a
registered a
lot more than
Republican.
84.
I registered a Republican, and they had voting machines here, and the Republicans had to vote on a ballot. They didn't have the Republicans in the machines at
That's
all.
why I registered
remember
Democrat,
that? Yeah.
because they told me if I registered Republican, I couldn't, I
right.
didn't know the difference, because this is where I first started voting
Yeah.
anyway. I was that young when I came here.
You were
No,
young.
not really. You can take that with a grain of salt. But they told me that they didn't have, a primaries, Republican primaries, and
That's
if
right,
I
they
wanted,
didn't.
if I wanted to vote,
And I fussed
I would
like
have
that.
to register as a Democrat, so, okay. I could
You
vote for
wouldn't believe
anybody,
that,
I
would
could
you?
vote for anybody I wanted to, but I had to
You had to
register.
put it on a slip of paper and
Yeah.
put it in a box. You weren't on the machines at all.
Yeah, it's really kind of meaningless. Well,
I
so,
bet you nickel I picked more limes down in that lime grove.
did-
And I used to squeeze them and put them in the freezer, and then when they'd have a fire on the island, all they had was backpacks. And we used to make lime juice by the gallon to take to those fellows that were walking through the woods.
boy,
with
it
those
was
little
something when we had
backpacks.
fires on the island, I'll tell you.
Mhm.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We really did.
There was the bad one on the
Yeah.
Castleville Road that Alan Nave backfired it, or it would have gone right square across. But
Yeah.
we had some bad fires.
Yeah.
Were these fires that were started by lightning?
I guess most of the times they were something like that. I know that they kept the campers out of the woods because they were afraid of that, but I don't think they ever knew how they got started. I don't think
Yes,
anyone knew
I think
nothing.
people just threw cigarettes out of the cars and, it was dry or something.
But these were back, this was
Yeah.
way back,
Oh,
I
back
think
in- I don't know.
in Castleville Dump
I don't
where
know.
it started.
I don't know.
So, I don't know, but that
But I
was a
can
bad fire.
I can tell you all a story about up at Bowman's Beach. We had come down, and this was before we came down here to move. We had come down to visit the Hires, and there was a big fire up at Bowman's Beach. And it was heading, it went from the road, obviously it had been, somebody had thrown something that went back up towards the water and went out. So anyway, walking out towards it, we were surprised, and we picked up these rifle, these bullets or shells.
Oh, yeah, Sadie Hires, they started.
Well, yeah, the Hires, and we picked up, I can't tell you how much, but we eventually filled a pickup load, took them to Tampa and got about $500 on these casings of these things from Bowman's
Well, the
Beach.
Navy used that part of the island for target practice. The Hires told me they did that. And the other thing they said they did, they went out and got the whelk egg cases.
I saw them do that. That's what they did.
In the machine and wash them out and then sell them by the gallon.
That's exactly what they did. When the whelk egg cases came up on the beach.
Look at that.
They put them. They had fixed their washing machine so that it caught, whatever came out of them. They would put them in the washing machine. They would twirl them around. Now I had seen them up in Bradenton because this is where we both were. And I had seen these things, and they sold something like $40
a
gallon at the time, these little
and there
whelk
must have been
things.
5 million in a gallon. That's how many whelks were gone, just like that.
Yeah, but they were dead anyway. I mean, they were, the cases were up on the beach. They had to be put
They
dry.
hadn't been fertilized
Yeah,
properly,
no.
I guess, is the thing they did.
And he would, the centrifugal force would knock them out of their cases, and he would collect them the way they came out the bottom. He would collect these things, and he had, a barrel, a wooden barrel, just full of these things up there. Now you can imagine.
Well, I'd say they came down here with a truck and a couple of blankets.
Yeah.
That's how they made
And
their
that's-
living.
That's how they made their
shells
living.
and picking up those shells up
Yeah.
at the north end of the island.
Yeah.
And
They had
I know they slept on the beach when they first came.
Yeah, and then they built a rickety house up on stilts there on, it used to be Tulip Way. What do they call it now?
Donax.
Donax. I don't know. They changed the names of these streets and.
Well, it's no worse than Aleck Alley.
Oh, I
Now,
love it! I love it! I love it! What are you talking about?
Well, why didn't they call it Aleck Court or something?
I love
I don't
Aleck.
like the
Aleck.
alley.
Alex, Sally, I love it. I just wish they'd left.
They
I
put it
wouldn't
on
have-
my property though, and I don't like it.
Oh, I love Aleck. Well, just like Tin Pan Alley.
think
But
it's cute.
that Tin Pan Court wouldn't have sounded half as good.
Aleck Alley.
Getting back to those whelk egg cases, you said they sold them for $40 for a gallon. And what were they sold for? What?
They did it.
Craft work.
Craft.
Oh, I see.
They did it for craft.
I have a couple that I keep.
I don't know that you can
I
even get
have
them
them in-
anymore. Can you? Have you seen them?
Well,
I haven't seen them. Have you?
no, I've had
No.
these 10 years.
No, but I mean, I haven't seen them. Of course, I haven't been in the shop.
Yeah.
But they were tiny. The little tiny little ones.
And perfect little whelks. They use them for the centers of flowers.
Do you know in that thing that I got the blue ribbon for, my miniatures that I had in the coconut grove for so many years, in the middle I have two little baby whelks, a right-handed and a left-handed.
Have you got a right hand?
Honest to God, they're
I
this big.
I never found a right
An eighth,
hand.
yeah, but it's an eighth of an inch, but it is. Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
Well, I miss it when I go in there. I don't like it as well as go to go.
Well,
I've been in a couple of times
I have it
and
at home, but I
haven't been real happy with it.
well, things,
But the Coconut
change.
Grove was nice because I'd known John so long, and when you're in
Yeah.
business, you have to take men out to lunch or supper sometime, and you don't like to pay a check, so I'd just call up and say no check, and I'd get the whole darn night. my nephews are the things that would come.
Yeah.
And then I'd call the next day and they'd tell me what it was and I'd send a
Yeah.
check to them. But it was wonderful
Yeah.
to have a place you could do that.
Yeah. What did the Simons had a lot to do in the early days too? They not only did they sell real estate, but didn't they have a lot to do with the shelling thing, or did they? Why do I remember them?
I don't know.
Paul Simons and
Yeah, they were in the real estate business.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were in the show very
No.
long because.
I just remember them and John and all those people that
Yeah.
started, you know, that got Sanibel away from the county and tried to become, you know, tried to separated the government and
Because I've
everything.
been active in that club
Just
all
in the early
time.
days before we
What?
became a city,
Yeah.
when the county was trying to force us to do everything. You ought to get some of those people to talk to too.
But we have a lot of good memories and a lot of fun memories as far
Oh,
as I'm
yes.
concerned.
Oh, yes, sure. Sure.
I went all the way from New Orleans all the way to Key West and back up the coast, and I came back and said, this is where I'm going to live. Took me 10 years to get here, but I did. I mean to actually live here. But it really was a beautiful place back.
Well, it still
It
is.
still is. I
It's
wouldn't
still
want to live
beautiful.
anyplace else.
It's still beautiful. I get out in my backyard, and I think I invented Xeriscape. I just didn't have enough sense to you know,
Well, you
do
have a
anything with
nice
it.
lot there, and it
Yeah,
right
but
on
I
the
mean,
corner.
I think I've been there for 20 years. I've never had a blade of grass there. I've always had the mulch. The whole yard is mulched, and
Well, I
everything
tried with
is-
shell, but
yeah.
it got too much for me. You know, I got a big piece of property there.
And it's
and
really
trying to keep the weeds out. So now I spiked in grass, but it's going to take a long time to get it grassed in. But it's a.
Tell us a little more about the fishing that you did.
Well, there was an awful lot of mullet fishing. I remember them going with their cast nets and throwing those cast nets, and they would come up with those nets would be so full of mullet. It could be.
Marty and I, one night at low tide, there was a whole bunch of them trapped between the sandbar and the thing, and we had 3 wash tubs full of them in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because I made my own net, and because I couldn't handle the bigger nets like the men because I'm too short.
You threw a net?
What?
You threw a net?
Oh, sure.
I didn't know that. I've made them. I mean,
They're fun to make.
I made them. I've made them, but
I even made the leads for the bottom of them. I went
Oh, really?
to a couple of garages and got all the
Leads.
leads that they balance the wheels
Right.
and made a
Oh,
thing.
we got lead, and we made our own leads too. They we would
Pour 'em.
boil them, and, you know, in the thing, and then pour them in these little
Little
things.
things,
Oh, we
yeah.
did a lot of things, and
You had to.
oh yeah, oh sure. Well, I remember the Hires made their own blocks, cinder blocks to
Oh,
build
yeah, because
the first Hires
I
cottages.
helped
They
run
made their own. There was no way to bring
when they
cinder
were
blocks
filling
over.
in for number 8 cottage on the beach. I ran the tractor and pulled sand up off the beach.
That's right.
Which you're not supposed to do.
Oh.
And Tom Billheimer taught me how to make fishing rods. I made all my own fishing rods.
There you go.
Made my water skis and used to take the Billheimer kids water skiing.
Yeah,
Over in Tarpon Bay was a good place to water ski.
nice kids. They got a
Yeah.
nice place going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And I hope you people haven't been bored with us sitting here reminiscing.
Can you think of any other subjects you want to bring
We
up?
probably think of a lot of things when
Once we
get
leave.
home.
Yeah, right. That's the way it always goes.
I know.
One thing, you talked about storms. Were you here for Donna, the hurricane?
oh yes, we were here for Donna. We
I
were-
wasn't. I came right after it.
We were here for Donna. And Donna, the Coconut Grove, we had just built the Coconut Grove. And,
Part of it, about half of it.
well, it was just a little, you
Yeah.
know, like everything else. Whatever, you know, we had $5, we built $5 worth, you know?
Yeah, well, John.
And this is how, yeah.
John built
always
all of
did
it,
his
yeah.
own. John always did his own building, and this is how much we had. And Donna took part of his roof, part of my roof, and all of the roof off the Coconut Grove. So he took the beams, which were wooden beams, off the Coconut Grove and put them on his house, and he took steel beams and put them on the Coconut Grove, and then, you know, we just did it around like that, and we fixed it. It was about 2 weeks before we got any electricity. I remember you couldn't get down Periwinkle at all. I remember Francis Bailey, every bit of stuff was just parceled out to people on the island, everything that he had in his freezers and, you know, the perishables were, he's always been so good, you know, he really has been so good for the island. And he just parceled it out to people. And also, I think on the second day, well, first of all, we wouldn't leave. The women left. The women left. I had 3 girls, and Bella, she left, and
She had,
no, this is when they got. She had Annie.
yeah, Annie.
She had Annie.
Hadn't had
Yeah, she hadn't had
John.
Tommy. Yeah.
Tommy, yeah.
Okay, so we went over and rented a place right across from the hospital. And so we came back, Jake brought us back, and we found all this mess. 2 days later, a baby was born that they were to adopt. And she brought a baby home 2 days into Donna.
Bella?
Bella,
That was Tommy? She brought back?
Tommy was born. Tommy was a Donna baby. And
Came over with Jake.
yeah, he came over with Jake. Yeah, it sure did. But the men wouldn't leave, and finally they were flown over in a helicopter because they wouldn't. Although some people did stay, I guess, at the Bailey house, the men did come over. They were flown over.
I think Floyd stayed.
But that was a bad storm.
But, you
That was
know,
a
they
real
had
bad
a
storm.
dog, and they wouldn't leave without the dog.
Who?
Floyd flew.
Oh, you're kidding.
They said Blanche, I think, went, but they lost a lot. Now, Helen Denny's house was probably the luckiest, one of the luckiest ones. They had water inside, and the only reason they had it is originally that was a house, and the threshold slanted in, and when the hurricane, you know, coming this way, just worked its way around the door and on the inside, and that's one of the first things I did. I tore out that old door and the casing and had a door open out with it slanting the other way, and then of course I've got storm shutters, but that's the only thing they had in that thing. That house was well built.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, the only thing was the roof. Part of the roof just flew off, and
Well, that time they didn't use the hurricane.
yeah, I think so. I think
things,
that was it. Yeah.
And after that, then they started to put those spreaders
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I think so.
Because I know I watched them on that garage of mine. I was sure that they had them on both sides of every girder and everything
Yeah.
they put in.
I think we had to go down, but you know, even more, I remember more even than Donna, the weirdest thing that ever happened was one of those water spouts. I remember I was with the girls one day, and we went down Tarpon Bay Road and as we were down at the end, saw this water spout on the water. So we followed it along the beach, and when we came up by Casabel, then I thought, well, we followed it long enough, nothing's going to happen. So we came back up by where the bank is and came back home. Well, we heard later that it had skipped over the island, jumped on the boathouse, picked up the whole boathouse, you know, and picked up the man, Fred, what was his name? Fred?
Down
Yeah.
at the ways.
At the ways,
Yeah.
yes. Picked him up, killed him,
With
took the
ref-
whole thing,
The freezer and the refrigerator and
cleaned
everything.
everything. Just a clean sweep
And
and
you
went
know,
off. Just like
A
that.
water spout doesn't usually hit land. I've seen
But it did, just
dozens of them.
landed right on the end of that
Yeah, I
boat
know.
dock, picked up that little house, that little boathouse that was sitting there,
And put it way up.
and just, again, just cleaned it off completely.
Well, all the girders went from the,
That really made an
Oh,
impression
sweet.
on me. The hurricane, when I was a kid, I went through a hurricane up in New Hampshire, so I knew from storms, and I had been
1938,
through
I know
storms,
that one.
hurricanes, yeah, 38, that's the one. And then in Bradenton, I'd lived in Bradenton, so I knew from hurricanes, and you know, hurricanes are bad, you do certain things, and you're okay if you do it, and you have a lot of cleaning up to do afterwards. But this was the weirdest thing, and it just out of nowhere, just a clear, beautiful day. Guess it was his time to go. I remember he used to make shell boxes too.
Mhm.
It's 11:33 a.m.
My heavens, we've kept them a long time.
What time is it?
11:33.
Well,
That's a wonderful watch you have.
I know. Oh, Lord.
Anything else you can think
Well,
of?
I will be very careful and see that you get
Okay,
this
Deb.
right back.
That's great. Yeah.
I know Tucker will be delighted with it because
Okay.
he's been hunting for. Of course, I told him about what we were doing about the pigs, and he says, hasn't anyone got any of those things? And I said, I don't know. I don't
Well,
know."
I've had it and I've kept it, and the reason that nobody has gotten it is because everything that has been given, it has disappeared. And I thought, well, I will keep it, and when there's a place, a home for it,
Mhm.
you know, it can go.
Where are the Galts now? They've left the island, haven't they?
Oh, they've been gone a long time.
They used to live over
Mary Lee
in,
got married again.
Yeah, I know she got married, but Joe was living over in Sage Court in Gumbo-Limbo, wasn't he for a long time?
Joe's not on the island.
I think so, because he was the next door neighbor to friends of mine over there.
No, Joe is he does the antique route, and he goes from place to place doing antique shows and things, and I don't know if they have a permanent home but I think it's out west somewhere.
Well, he died, didn't he, the son?
Oh, the son.
No,
yeah,
no,
we're not
it
talking-
wasn't, it was
we're not talking about
Daniel's son that died.
Oh, Joe's son died.
Mary's son died.
Mary's son died.
Mary.
Timmy.
Yeah,
Timmy died, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Timmy and Mary and Joe's son died, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him
Yeah.
working as a guard in the Tampa airport. One time I was on my way up north.
Who?
Timmy.
Timmy?
Uh-huh. That was a long time ago.
I always liked Timmy.
The paper's coming off. You gotta.
Well, it's just that sticky stuff, you know, just that. Don't find fault with it now.
That's great to have that. It's good you saved it.
Right.
Just put new stuff on for you.
Okay?
Yeah, I think.